Oh, yeah.
Yeah, cheers.
Oh, yeah, cheers. Well, mate, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
Bit going on. You've got the airport right there, and when we say right there, it literally is, you could throw something onto the runway.
Yeah, right through our back wall is literally airside, so we can't go through our back wall.
There.
It's literally the runways right there, so 3 layers of runways. It's Lonnie Airport, so it's not too busy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, everything from military and private contractor down this end, right through to commercial down the other end. We've always got something coming and going past.
And the guys working at the back here. So first off, let me introduce yourself. Let me tell everyone what you do and where we are, I guess.
Yeah, so my name's David Debattista. I do the sales and marketing at Launceston Distillery in Hangar 17, which is just outside of, next to Launceston Airport, as we were just talking about. We've been here since 2013, producing whiskey since 2015. We got the building back in 2011, which is pretty old, so it needed a fair bit of work before we could get her up to spec. So yeah, she's a heritage listed building. Yep. Beautiful history behind her, carried together for an amazing amount of years, everything from pre-aviation through to commercial aviation to cargo, through ANZ and everything. So she had a decent life before us, that's for sure.
It definitely looking around, you can just see the age that's in here, and we had a bit of a tour around and saw what basically the whole history here, you know, from, when was it? Sorry, the first off, 1920s?
So yeah, 1920s is when this was first built to service that first generation of planes making it to Tassie. And
then all the way to Ansett until they closed in, 2001?
2001, yeah. So it's a big thing in Lonnie, because Ansett had a big footprint down here in Tassie. Even pre-internet, you'd call up to book a plane ticket, you called the call centre in Lonnie. So there was a lot of staff down here. So yeah, it was a sad day when it did close. So a lot of people did know of our building, and it was just assumed for many years that she was just left to rot, so to speak. And even in the first few years when our distillery got set up here after 2015, producing through until our first release in 2018, those years people just presumed there was still nothing here because all we do is make whiskey. So there wasn't a lot going on for anyone on the outside to know what was happening. So yeah, she's had a good life, but we think we've given her a new lease on life and good repurposing, which people love. You know, you don't want to see it just get bulldozed and some new concrete box monstrosity get built. It's great to see a repurposing to a beautiful space.
And looking around, there is literally signs with chalk still on from when Ansett closed, and you were talking about how it's heritage listed, so you're really limited on what you can do. We went through, it's worth coming down and actually doing this because we don't have any amount of time to be able to go through it because there's just so much information on this place, but it's just been so amazing to kind of see that you've kept a lot of that history here because you had to, but also that, you know, you've worked in, or the Historical Society has worked in with you to be able to do it. There we go, another airplane going through.
Yeah, no, that's a commercial, I can tell by the sound.
So there we go.
Yeah.
So let's start off with you and then we'll come back to the distillery. How did you get into whiskey? What was your first journey into the whiskey world?
Oh, look, many years ago I went to uni, I studied advertising and marketing. I worked at advertising agencies, creating ad campaigns and the like. And back in those days, pre-2008, you know, you got paid for getting your work up. Other than that, is what it is. If you didn't get any work up, you don't get paid. You've got to prove yourself through work. So on the weekends, I worked in bars.
Okay.
Underneath one of those advertising agencies was a bar I worked in Melbourne. Worked there on the weekends and loved it. Loved the social aspect, loved the good drinks, got into all manner of different types of product. And then 2008 financial crisis happened. Everyone that worked in advertising and marketing, bang, lost their job straight away. First thing you cut back on. So I started working in bars a lot more than I was doing advertising until I got into the point where I started running bars and operating businesses and started just loving whiskey. That was just the drink I kept coming back to. And the next thing you know, you're working in a bar, you're selling whiskey, you want to know more about it, so you go there. The next thing you know, I was going to Scotland, I was going to Japan, I was going to whiskey making parts of the world, everywhere, trying to learn about it and understand about it. And my missus, she's from Tassie, so we used to come down from Melbourne to Tassie a lot and visit her family. And while I was down here, I'd drive around and visit distilleries, buy a whiskey to take back to my bars. Because even, you know, back 2016, 2018, couldn't buy Tassie whiskey even in bottle shops in Melbourne. You know, it was that unattainable local product. So used to just get it when I came down, and Launceston Distillery being right next to the airport, be one of my
very
stops.
Easy to get to, yes.
Exactly. So my missus, her family live on the northwest coast, would come down, visit them. As I'm about to fly back, drop past, buy an armful of bottles for my whiskey bar and other venues, put it in and luggage and fly back, and bang, I'd have Tassie whiskey, which no one else had because it just wasn't readily available. So we sort of fell in love with the old Tassie scene, and then, yeah, we thought, why not move down?
And
why not get a job into it?
How dramatically has the Tasmanian whiskey scene just changed now? Like, you can get it anywhere around, even certain places around the world. So,
look, we're very lucky that we're at the point where we're making great quality liquid. It's internationally recognised now, and everybody around the world wants it.
Yeah.
We can't make enough.
Yeah, that's the problem with most people. So you've moved back here now in the last couple of years.
Yep. So I live in Lonnie now, in the town. Me, myself, the other boys behind us, the 5 business owners, including one of them being our head distiller, Chris Condon, all Lonnie boys.
Yeah. Okay.
So everyone still lives in town. We're all local. It's all representative of the people that we are.
Yeah. So going back to then, do you remember your first whiskey that you ever tried and went, wow, that's amazing?
Look, I think I did a lot of what a lot of people did. You started out with blended whiskies. You had them in terrible drinks. You smashed it. You were young and dumb and had no idea. And you start to sort of appreciate the finer things and search out flavour profiles. I remember the first time I tried peated whiskey and thought it was horrendous.
I agree.
It sticks out like there's no tomorrow. But then I think, very rapidly over just a maybe 2-year period, flavour profiles has changed so much. I started liking peated whiskey, and then so, one of the first trips I went to Scotland, made sure to go over to Islay and visit distilleries there. And, it just sort of blossoms. And it's not so much, I think, what you like. It's sort of what you challenge yourself to get into. And started thinking, great. I've drunk lots of Speyside whiskies, as you do. I want to find some more obscure Highland whiskies and then get over to the islands and then, find some Campbelltown and just sort of push myself to get into different categories and find things. And I think, that's what's helped me get on my sort of whiskey journey, so to speak.
So you've obviously travelled a fair bit, more than a lot of people generally get to, especially in the whiskey world. But do you have a memory that kind of sticks out to you that you go, I don't know, it could be anything. It could be like, the first time you tried Speyside. It could be a distillery tour you've done, or buying a bottle for, one of your kids being born or something like that. Is there a certain memory that really sticks out for you?
Oh, yeah, look, plenty. I think, one of my favourite all-time distillery tour experiences when I went to Brook Laddie. And I remember, I'd been on Islay and I'd been visiting a lot of the Diageo distilleries and the Beam Suntory distilleries, and no photos, can't do this, can't do that, don't go in there, don't do that. It's very regimented, the big business, you understand. And then I remember going to Brook Laddie and standing there, and I'm like, oh, look, you see a grist dropping down through there. That's really cool how it's sort of elongated like that. It's really cool perspective. And he goes, oh, you think it's really cool? Climb up, put your camera in and take a photo. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, cool, go nuts, doesn't matter, man. And I'm like, okay, and just that alien, just the freedom of being able to do that was just astonishing. And that the whole day, just me and my girlfriend just going through Brook Laddie and just climbing on casks, pulling samples out, dipping into a wash, just all that stuff. That was just, to me, that was like, what an experience. It was incredible.
So you just saying that then, the reason why I asked that is that I've had a lot of enjoyable things, as you do, especially when you're kind of doing interviews and stuff like that. You get some, you get access to some pretty cool stuff. But seeing you actually had a big smile on your face when you were saying that. And it's, for me personally, that's what this is all about. It's like sharing, really good times with people, and you're able to do it with your wife, which is great. But there's some really good times with that. And it's an experience you're probably not going to get again. It probably changed now, probably with WhiskZ Safe and Haven. It probably changed and things like that too. So quickly, we went through this in over an hour kind of thing out here. What's the general history of where we're sitting here? What are you guys producing? What's the consistency thing? We spoke about that, you're not trying to do something stupid crazy. You want to do something of quality consistently and have that repeat kind of customer. What's the story you've got here?
Well, look, our head distiller, Chris, comes from a long history of distilling and brewing in Tasmania. It's in his blood. It's part of who he is. And he was working in other distilleries in the south, and he wanted to return back to Lonnie, which was not serviced. There was no distilleries in Lonnie for a long, long time. And he wanted to go back to his hometown with his business partners and open up a distillery in his style of whiskey, which is very Scottish and traditional, which is all about consistency to market, batch on batch, achieving that consistency and that flavour profile. So a customer buys a bottle a year ago, drinks it all, enjoys it, buys a bottle now, it's probably going to come from a different batch, a different selection of cask. but the blending together to create that consistency and flavour profile, returning to that flavour that you loved every time. That's what was important for him. So I know it's jazzy. A lot of people will release, single casts at a time. It's exciting, difference here and there, but that consistency to market, that high level of quality that we're always putting to the consumer, that's what drives Chris. That's what he wants to do every time. And we have people that come to us and they buy every batch that when we release it, which we're very transparent about. It's on our website, every batch code, when it was released, how many bottles, when it was put out to market, everything is all right there. So people can look back and see, I got this at this time. And you know what? That's amazingly similar to one from 3 years ago. Because that consistency of what we're putting out is what really drives him to get a good quality liquid at an approachable price point too.
Yeah.
We want to make sure our whiskey is always available for people to drink. We don't want it to be a pretty ornament. We want it to be enjoyed.
Yeah. So casks then, you've obviously got your bourbon. We went through a couple of samples before. What are the general casks that you're consistently putting out? There's a couple of obviously different, but they're consistent ones.
Well, to Chris, his business model was always very Scottish in its style. So we do everything on site. From the grain, we do all the mash, we do the fermentation, we do the distillation, barrel aging, all the bottling on site. Very traditional. We want to think the idea of you can hook up our little distillery, drop it in Scotland, and it'd tick off all those boxes to be considered single malt whiskey. We follow that right down to the cask use. We're very traditional in our cask use, just like the Scottish style. Bourbon casks, tawny port casks, and sherry slash apera. We want to stick to all those naming conventions. Every bottle, our very first release was an apera cask. A lot of people put sherry on it, but we follow the naming convention. It's always said apera from the start. Same with our tawny, same with our bourbon cask releases. We're using those traditional styles of cask. There are predominant 3 styles of cask use. A lot of people do use jazzy, different, exciting things, which is great fun. I love drinking them as well.
Yep.
And we've sort of pushed Chris a little bit into some fun times. We recently did a rum cask release, which was made with ex-Caribbean rum casks from Jamaica, which were great fun and a great way of sort of getting into some of those categories. But very traditional in our style. You won't find too many soft drink casks or types here. Chris isn't keen for that.
No, and I think when you consistently do something good, and you've got the clientele and it's something you enjoy, but you've got the systems in place for it, you don't need to branch out if that's just not what you want to do. I love the fact that other people are doing that. It's great that we're in a place where we can experiment with stuff. The regulations, we won't get into that conversation, but the regulations are a little bit more open than, say, being in the UK and stuff like that, and gives us the amount of play there. But then I ask this by everyone, if you could get any cask in the world, absolutely any cask in the world, it was gifted to you, what would that cask be for putting the Launceston New Make in?
You're talking about my choice or
Your
Chris's choice?
No, we'll go Chris's, but yours. It can be obscure as much as you want, or
like I said, Chris is a pretty traditionalist type of fella.
Yep.
So I doubt he's ever going to whip out something exotic. He's not going to say tequila cask or anything like that. But I do know very recently we spent a lot of time sourcing very specific port casks.
Yep.
We got some beautiful old Portuguese port casks that were certified as being over 80 years of age.
Wow.
And that depth of flavour and the quality of the port that it was in there was second to none. We spent a lot of money on those casks. And it was something that Chris had spent a lot of time sort of searching for. So he's never really going to be the type that I want a specific brand. It's not going to be, I want Chateau Haut-Braun, certain wine cask. It's all about the quality of the wood and the quality of what was in there to begin with. And the cooperages that we do use, like the one you're going to go to soon at Transwood, they know that.
Yep.
So when they're looking at wood to pitch to Chris, they know they're not going to pitch something that's average or from wherever. It's got to be that quality-driven thing first.
Yep.
First and foremost, even before the brand. If it was me, I'm going through a great rum phase right now as well. I'd love a beautiful Hampton Estate rum cask. The rum casks that we've got now, which are just sitting over there, they're beautiful old Money Musk casks, which are fantastic as well, but I would love to get a very specific stamped Hampton Estate.
It's starting to become a thing. There's a lot more rum cask coming out, but they're being, generally from what I'm seeing, is they're just rum cask finished.
Yeah.
So it'd be really interesting to see.
Well, those ones over there, they were filled with new make.
All the way through.
They're ex-Jack Daniels casks that were then at Money Musk for another 15 years. So they're going to need a good, because they're hogsheads, they're going to need a good probably 8 or so years, we think, before we got that full life matured. But it'll be fascinating to see, because
Let's
they
see
were
what it comes out like.
funky, groovy, over the top style cask noses coming out of there.
Yeah.
So it'll be very exciting, but long way down the line.
Yeah, as unfortunately always whiskey generally is when we're aging it. So if people were coming down, do you want to give a bit of a run up where you are, how far away you are, how to get in contact with you guys?
Absolutely. I would dare say we're probably one of the more easily accessible distilleries in Tasmania. Literally, you find a Launceston. I know that's alien for some people. Everyone thinks Tasmania is Hobart and that's it. There is a north. You fly into Launceston Airport, 45 minutes from Melbourne, not very far at all. And literally you exit the baggage claim area, turn left, and in about 10 minutes walk, you're in us.
You're here.
So we're literally the next hangar on from the airport, right near the control tower, right next to the runway.
And you obviously do tours, we've just gone through that. You do tastings as well here?
Yeah, we're open all the time, being right next to the airport, usually dictates as such. We're open all the time. People come down 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day. They come through. Tours, tastings, we take you through everything from the history of the hangar right down to the distillation process, everything that's happening behind us, cask aging, and then obviously tastings of everything that we have currently available is for sale and on taste.
Yeah.
So yeah, designed to, we want people to come down and enjoy our whiskey.
And you've got this release right here, which is
Yes.
you have to be here to get. So if you are coming down, this is one to get. Can you explain what it is before we wrap everything up for the night?
Yeah, so we've got a little distillery dog, his name's Angus. It's the oldest distillery dog in Tassie. He's 14 years of age. He's been around distilleries a long time. This is his second distillery now. It's getting on a bit, that's for sure.
We saw him waddling along with his little high-vis coat on before.
Yeah, forklift was moving. And we thought we'd better do something in his honour while he's still around. Going over to Scotland, I visited distilleries over there. One such one is Glen Turret, and they do a bottling for their famous distillery cat. His name Towser. Famous cat, he's in Guinness World Records. Look him up, it's entertaining. And we thought, you know what, that's great. Like, people go there, they love the story of him, as they do with Angus when they come here. Let's do a bottling around Angus. So we call it our Angus cask. It's a single cask, pulled down. Customer can come, give it a taste if they like it. You fill up your own bottle, you seal it, you label it, you sign the label, the date it, tax stamp it, everything. Take it all away. It's got Angus on the label. It's called the Angus Cask Hand Fill. And it's only available at the distillery. It's not barcoded, so you've literally got to sign it out in the tax book. And that way then you've got a bottle with your name on it that represents your time at the distillery.
And that's just another thing for me. Like we speak about this all the time. The experience you get from things like customer service, from the actual whiskey, to then having something like that, it really heightens the experience of coming out here and just the enjoyment of everything. So
100%. Our whiskies, they're available all over Australia and every state and select markets overseas. But we wanted to reward those people that have made the pilgrimage to our distillery with something that's unique.
Yep.
And it seems to have worked for us, that's for sure. So yeah, we're really happy. It's just trying to find whiskey that's good enough as quickly as it's getting poured out.
That's a single thing to
get back in. So yeah, we're on the Angus Cask 2 already. There's not much left of it. So yeah, soon we'll have to start looking for what's going to go in for Angus Cask 3.
Maybe another rum cask then. Might be able to find something in the depths.
I wish we had a lot more readily available. It sold out very quickly in Tassie Whiskey Week, that one.
Mate, well, thank you for joining us. We're going to wrap it up because I need to get a bottle of this hand fill. Again, thank you so much for the time that we've spent today and the education of it. It's really good to come out and see, like, obviously the working behind it all and see everything being done here as well, which is really good. But mate, appreciate the time.
Perfect, pleasure.
Cool. Cheers, guys.